Hello everybody, my name is Will, and today I'm going to be talking about time-collapse photography. Now, you've probably heard of time-lapse photography, which basically just means taking a whole bunch of pictures back to back and then lining it up in post. That's a terrible explanation of time-lapse photography, but you probably already understand it. Now, time-collapse photography is different. It's when you take a bunch of pictures in one place, for instance, but then instead of sequencing them one right after the other, you stack them vertically rather than horizontally. You've probably already seen some time-collapse photography and not recognized it for what it is. Oftentimes it's used at night for long exposure looking photographs of stars. You see star trails going across the night sky for the length of an entire night, all in one photo, and it looks like someone left their shutter open for 12 hours, and maybe they did, but an easier way of doing that is just doing time-collapse photography. I've played around a little bit with using time-collapse photography on star trails, but I've found some really cool results messing around with taking pictures of clouds. Now, I haven't been doing this for much longer than a week, and so really all the images I have so far are basically proof of concept tests, but it is still really cool to me, and so I just wanted to share it with you. Now, here's a set of about 15 images I took last week or so in my backyard, and I actually ended up taking about 500 of them, but only needing about 7, and so I'll just, for time purposes, I will just go through the process here. So I'm here in Adobe Bridge rather than Lightroom, just because I find Bridge to be easier sometimes working with just files rather than dealing with the whole library thing in Lightroom. So what I'm gonna do is I will open up the first image in Camera Raw and do some adjustments. And as you can see, there's some good cloud detail. I would have liked it to be less cloudy. This works best when there isn't as many clouds and there's not a lot of cloud cover, but this will work. So what I'm gonna do here is really bring out the contrast in this, seeing the difference between the blue sky behind the clouds and the white of the clouds. And this will just be quick adjustments here. Maybe bring down the highlights, maybe not. Bring down the shadows, yeah. I'll go in and dehaze this some. That's a cool effect, just to accentuate the contrast. And again, this is super quick, and you can see some crap on my lens that I wasn't able to get rid of, but luckily later on in Photoshop, we'll be able to handle that. Okay, so this is looking fine. It could probably be a lot better edited, but for the purposes of this tutorial, this is fine. So I'll also click done here. Now I will copy the develop settings. Where is that? Copy settings, select the rest of them, and back to develop settings and paste those. Okay, to all, and then they're all gonna be edited the same. All right, so you don't have to do this next step, but I'm going to, just because I want to make it easier on my MacBook. I'm going to convert this all these raw files into JPEGs with the batch processing image processor. No, wait for Photoshop to open up. I'm just going to save these as JPEGs in the same project folder. Select folder. Run. And so this is why I only chose 15 images rather than all 500, because it needs to be processing these all and saving them as JPEG. Now once this is finished, we can get on to actually stacking the images. Alrighty, now that we have our JPEGs, let's open up Photoshop and go to File, Scripts, Load Files into Stack. And now we'll browse to find those files. Select all of them, open. Make sure Attempt to automatically align source images is not selected, and neither is Create Smart Object after loading layers. All right, this might take a little while, but all it's doing is just importing each file and then making each file a new layer. All right, here we are in Photoshop, and we have all 15 images of ours as a separate layer over here in the layers panel. And so they're just stacked on top of each other right now. And so you can look through, see a bit of the time lapse going that way. So we're gonna re-show all of those, and then here is where the magic happens. All we need to do is select all of the layers except the bottom one and change the blending mode to lighten. And so now we see that we have the sort of effect that we're going for. You can sort of see that there's a little movement in the clouds, and it's not super obvious, so what you might want to do is just like play around with how many you want to actually be shown. And so it's like adding clouds every step. Check that out. So maybe just mess around with it for a while. Since it's so cloudy, you will see that it works better when there's just like a few clouds in the sky, so you can really accentuate that sort of painting look. And so I'm not really happy with the way this looks, but you know, such is life. If I chose a different selection here in Bridge and go through these raw photos, oh shoot, it's actually in a different folder. But if I chose a different selection of these photos, maybe when there's more sky available to see, the effect would be more obvious, but the basic principle still applies here, and you can sort of see the effect when I turn on and off these layers over here. And so I'll show you how to go through with the rest of this effect, even though this particular example isn't as impressive as I probably would have liked. And so let's just say that those 3 layers are what we like. Make a new layer, and then we'll go to Image, Apply Image to that layer. Okay, and so we can work on getting rid of those little spots in the image there. I'll just use the spot healing brush tool. That's super useful. All right, my computer's being really slow, so we're just gonna pretend that I fixed all these screen blotches. This is not turning out the best, but we'll just export that this image as a, let's say, JPEG in this folder. We'll call it, actually in this folder, we'll call it Cloud Trail. Save it there, those export settings. And now this is what it ends up looking like. Hooray! So that's our kind of lame attempt at tackling that same sort of thing. I'll show you my other version that I did with the same set of pictures, and if you want to spend more time, you can go in there and work with that. All right, here's a quick rundown of all the steps we took to create a cool time-collapse photo. First, we imported all our files into Adobe Bridge. Then we opened up an image in Adobe Camera Raw and messed around with all the settings until we had the image how we liked it. Then we applied all those same develop settings to all the images in our sequence. Then we saved all those raw images as JPEGs. Then we imported all those JPEGs into Photoshop using the image stack script. Then we set the blending mode to all of our layers to lighten, and then we just played around in Photoshop until we got the image looking how we wanted it. Then we export from Photoshop and we have our final awesome time-collapse image. Thanks so much for watching this tutorial. I hope you enjoyed it and found it informative, and now you know how to make an awesome time-collapse photo. Until next time, I'm Will.